Here on Wham Baam Dashcam, we've shown you over 1,000 dashcam videos sent in by our fans, and we serve up 20 new ones every week. Today we're showcasing some of the craziest clips we've ever featured, so buckle up for Wham Baam Dashcam's Worst Drivers of New York, Volume 1. Ben was driving in New York City when he noticed an NYPD vehicle driving along with no lights on. As Ben began passing the police car, the officer made a sudden U-turn without signaling, plowing into Ben's Lexus before immediately activating the car's emergency lighting. Notice that the cop car had no lights on at all before the brakes were applied, which illuminated the brake lights. Then it turned with still no headlights, turn signals, or emergency lights active. It wasn't until after the impact that the officer activated the emergency lights, but Ben told us they said in their official report that the emergency lights were already active and that Ben had failed to yield. The NYPD sent Ben a bill for $14,000 to repair their police car. After he sent them a copy of his dashcam footage, they backed off before covering Ben's $7,500 repair bill. If not for the video, Ben would have been on the hook for both repair bills. If that doesn't convince you to get a dashcam, I don't know what will. Check the description for our recommendations. Nick was heading to the mall when he watched the driver of a black SUV run a red light and get struck by another SUV. The SUV struck the Toyota's rear tire, spinning it around and sending it dangerously close to Nick's Honda Civic. The SUV then rolled into a red SUV that was stopped on the other side of the intersection. Thankfully, nobody was hurt in the collision. All the involved drivers were thankful for copies of Nick's dashcam footage, but the police told him they'd captured the incident with their own camera on a nearby power pole. They weren't interested in Nick's dashcam footage, but they thanked him for offering it and told him about other incidents where dashcam footage had completely changed the outcome of a collision investigation. Lewis was driving home with his dad for his sister's college graduation. When he noticed a cop car up ahead, he changed lanes to give it more room. He then kept driving for a while before noticing an SUV with a very poorly secured mattress strapped to the roof. It didn't take long for him to find out that the cop had noticed it too. Yeah, that mattress looks like it was a mile or two from taking flight. Hopefully some instant justice prevented some instant regret. This submitter was driving down the I-495 service road when the driver of a BMW pulled out from an access road, colliding with his Toyota Prius. Our submitter tried to avoid contact, but the front bumper of the BMW scraped down the side of his Prius in spite of his efforts. Both drivers stopped to exchange information. Thankfully, there was no underlying damage to our submitter's car, so the repair estimate is somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000. He didn't tell us how much it would cost the other driver to fix her BMW. Fedora was leaving a friend's house when he approached what he calls an infamous four-way stop. After waiting for his turn, he proceeded through the intersection before a car ran the stop sign right in front of him. After managing to avoid a collision with that stop sign runner, another driver ran the same stop sign and he hit her instead. Thankfully, nobody was injured and both vehicles remain drivable. Fedora credits our channel with convincing him to buy the dashcam that saved him from being cited for running a stop sign. He said, "Buy a dashcam, it'll be the best $60 you'll ever spend." This submitter was driving his Toyota Tacoma when he pulled up to a red light. Another driver decided he didn't want to wait and used a creative maneuver to get through. The Toyota driver split lanes before running the red light and driving off. I guess that's one way to beat traffic. Gaspar was waiting in a left turn lane when a driver from the right turned too tightly and nearly ran directly into his VW Jetta. Gaspar honked and the driver slammed on her brakes before turning and going around him. Gaspar just continued on his way to work. David was headed home from work in an area he describes as notoriously filled with taxi drivers thanks to arriving cruise ships. Watch what happened when a driver ahead of him changed lanes to go around traffic. When the driver of a VW SUV dodged around other traffic, a taxi driver didn't see them coming and turned into them. David stopped and gave a copy of his dashcam footage to the driver of the SUV. Ronaldo was on his way to pick up his girlfriend from work when he encountered this week's Tesla behaving badly. By the way, you may have noticed we don't have a Tesla behaving badly in every episode. That's only because we need our viewers to keep sending them in. Okay, let's roll the jingle and watch this Tesla driver ignore the road markings.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Ronaldo slammed on the brakes and honked to avoid a collision. He's just glad he was paying attention. Rob was headed to a store with his wife. As he took to the right lane to get around slower traffic, a pickup hauling a trailer in the left lane suddenly turned across Rob's lane. The pickup driver didn't signal or check his blind spot before attempting to turn right from the left lane. Thankfully, a police officer in an unmarked SUV saw the collision and followed both drivers into a nearby parking lot. The pickup driver was cited and his insurance provider paid $7,000 to repair Rob's F-150 Platinum after he sent them his dashcam footage. Chris was heading to cross the border into Canada when he encountered another driver who'd evidently decided to stay in the United States.
Gotta drive the wrong way! In the highway!
Oops! Chris wonders if the guy missed the big bright wrong way signs and asked us if they needed to be bigger and or redder. This submitter was on his way home. While driving down a highway, another driver suddenly dove into his lane, and he told us he stopped breathing when this happened. Our submitter pointed out that the other vehicle only had a temporary license plate, and he also said, "Thank God nothing happened." Label had parked his Honda Odyssey outside of a school where he was attending an event. While he was gone, the driver of a van backed into his vehicle and damaged the front bumper cover and driver's fender. The impact activated his dashcam's parking mode, which recorded the other vehicle. Thankfully, the driver stuck around to give Label his insurance information. The van driver's insurance provider paid about $3,600 to repair Label's bumper cover and fender. This submitter was driving along when he encountered an SUV backing up down the Palisades Interstate Parkway. Our submitter honked and flashed his lights in an attempt to warn the driver of the SUV, but I'm guessing they knew exactly what they were doing and were just trying to reach the exit they just passed. Our submitter noted the SUV already had rear-end damage and theorized this might be attributable to the driver's lack of driving skills. Shia was driving down a ramp leading from one highway to another. Suddenly, he encountered a wrong-way driver coming straight toward him. Shia swerved into the other lane without having time to see if it was clear. Miraculously, he made it through the mayhem without a scratch. He called 911 but couldn't stop because he had a car full of passengers. Jensen and his brother were on their way home after a long day of delivering packages when they suddenly encountered 3 police cars chasing a vehicle with a broken headlight. Jensen told us they were tired and just wanted to go home, so they kept going. He also wanted to tell our viewers to stay safe out there. Jason was driving in Brooklyn when the driver of an SUV turned onto the same street, then started making a U-turn directly in front of him. Jason honked and swerved into oncoming lanes to avoid a collision by inches. He told us the other driver just continued like nothing had happened. Thankfully, he didn't find any damage when he stopped to check. This submitter has a 4-way dashcam installed in his Toyota Camry. It was parked at a gas station when it captured a 3-vehicle collision happen in a nearby intersection. A van driver ran a red light before colliding with 2 other vehicles. Our submitter told us first responders took 30 minutes to arrive. He wanted to shout out his brother. He owns a Model 3 and they watch Wham Baam Tesla Cam and Wham Baam Dashcam together. Don't forget Wham Baam Security Cam, guys. This submitter spotted this week's Tesla behaving badly, who experienced some instant justice after rolling through not 1, but 2 stop signs.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Our submitter kept driving after the hidden police officer pulled over the Tesla driver. He said, "Always come to a complete stop at a stop sign. You never know who's watching." This submitter was driving along when he was passed by multiple drivers evidently racing one another. Suddenly, a third vehicle went flying past him before spinning out of control. Somehow, the driver of the Dodge Charger managed to avoid hitting anything and end up pointing the right way down an exit ramp in spite of their lack of driving skills. Our submitter wanted to shout out his friend Sal, who introduced him to Wham Baam Dashcam. What a legend! Nick's Acura MDX was totaled after colliding with a car while moving at only 13 miles per hour. He was in a straight-only lane when the driver of an oncoming Honda Civic cut through traffic and collided with Nick's front wheel. The impact bent the control arms and prevented the Acura from moving. Sadly, that's not the end of the story. The Honda driver immediately blamed Nick for the collision, and when Nick said he was going to notify the police, the Honda driver said he was late for work and fled the scene. Incredibly, the Civic's license plate fell off and was left behind, making it easy for the cops to look up the driver's insurance info. His insurance provider took full responsibility and totaled Nick's SUV. Here's where the story takes a positive turn. When the insurance company sent Nick a check for the value of his vehicle, which they let him keep, Nick used the money to repair it. He sent us some photos of it after he'd fixed it. Nick doesn't know if the police ever tracked the Civic driver down, but either way, he's glad his MDX is back on the road. Simon drives this one-way road all the time and knew he was going the right way when another driver started heading toward him. Even though Simon flashed his high beams and turned on his hazard lights to signal the other driver, they didn't seem to get the message, so he pulled off the road to let them pass. Simon says he saw the other driver turn down another street in his rearview mirror before he continued on his way home. Mayer was driving his GMC Acadia when a taxi pulled out in front of him. Mayer honked and swerved while slamming on the brakes. After the taxi driver had gotten out of the way, he continued to his destination. Kyle watched 2 Hondas make contact when one turned into the road without checking for traffic and sideswiped the other. Kyle told us neither driver appeared to stop, so he thinks they might have not known they'd made contact, as everyone continued on with their day. And yes, that's a Honda, not a Prius. Don't at me, bro. Thomas was leaving his neighborhood when he watched a pickup pulling a trailer come to a sudden stop, sending the drawers of a toolbox, and all the tools inside, crashing onto the ground. The toolbox actually tipped completely over and fell out of the trailer, spraying tools all over the place on its way down. Needless to say, the pickup driver was not happy about what had happened. Thankfully, Thomas believes he has pinpointed the problem. He told us that the pickup driver clearly forgot to slap it twice and say, "That's not going anywhere."
Wham, bam, we got a Patreon man. Please support the show.